Hi everyone. Today I am going to tell you how to file TDS on the sale of property. From 1st June 2013, whenever a buyer buys an immovable property such as a building, a part of a building or land other than agricultural land, he needs to deduct tax at source before making payment to the seller. This is for immovable properties costing more than 50 lakhs only. This has been laid down under Section 194IA of the Income Tax Act. So here are the provisions of Section 194IA. Under this section, the buyer is required to deduct TDS at the rate of 1% on the total sale consideration. However, from 14th May 2020 to 31st March 2021, the rate of TDS has been reduced to 0.75%. If the payment is being made in installments, then TDS needs to be deducted on each installment paid. The consideration for the immovable property will include club membership fees, car parking fees, electricity and water fees, maintenance fees, advance fees or any other charges which are incidental to the transfer of the property. This requirement is applicable for properties purchased on or after 1st September 2019. The TDS will need to be paid on the entire sale amount. The buyer of the property need not obtain a tax deduction account number or TAN, but can make payment of the same using his PAN. The seller will also need to provide his PAN details, failing which TDS will need to be deducted at the rate of 20%. The TDS will need to be paid under Form 26QB within 30 days from the end of the month in which the TDS was deducted. After depositing the TDS to the government, the buyer will need to obtain Form 16B, which he will need to provide to the seller. So here are the steps to pay TDS using the Challan 26QB and to obtain Form 16B. First, the buyer will need to log into the online tax payment website. On it, he'll have to select Form 26QB for paying TDS on sale of property. After which, he'll have to select the code 0020 if he's a corporate payer or 0021 if he's a non-corporate payer, and then fill in all the necessary details. There are two modes for making TDS payment, one being through an online mode of payment and two by visiting any of the bank branches. The buyer can select whichever mode is convenient to him and then click on proceed. After payment has been made, the buyer needs to print Challan 280 and keep the same for his records. If the buyer is making payment by visiting a bank, he needs to print the online receipt for Form 26QB along with the unique acknowledgement number and take the same to the bank. The bank will print Challan 280 once the payment has been made. The next step will be to get the TDS certificate in Form 16B. The buyer will need to get registered on the Traces website if he is a first-time user with his PAN number and the Challan number which was generated at the time of payment. Once registered, the buyer can obtain Form 16B from the Traces website, which he can then issue to the seller. The buyer then needs to check his Form 26AS 7 days after payment is made. He can see that the payment details will now be reflected in Part F of the Form 26AS. The last step is, once the payment details are reflected in Form 26AS of the buyer will again need to log into the Traces website and download Form 16B, which is a certificate for the buyer. To finish this process, the buyer will need to enter the PAN of the seller and the acknowledgement number relating to the property transaction, after which he can submit the request. It will take a few hours for the request to be processed, after which the buyer can go to the Downloads tab and select the requested downloads from the drop-down menu. He then needs to download the zip file. The form will be available in the zip folder as a PDF. He needs to print it out and store the same in his records. I hope you found this useful. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.